A. Smith Show starts right now.
Is all about expectations. Promise somebody a 6, deliver a 7, and you're a hero. Promise somebody an 8, and deliver a 7, and you are fired. Life is all about expectations, and there are a ton of expectations for the Cleveland Browns and the Kansas City Chiefs of the NFL. So which one of these very hyped teams will live up to expectations? It's the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. Will Cain filling in for Stephen A. You can normally catch me destroying these radio airways on all those same television and radio channels, 3 to 6 Eastern. But for now, I need you to answer that question. There's a ton of hype. Hype is built now. Expectations are set now, during the offseason, during the preseason, and we are on the verge of football. Almost 50% of NFL teams will report to camp within the next 2 days. With that comes preseason rankings, preseason expectations, preseason predictions, and preseason hype. This is when it's all set, man. This is what our expectations will hold for the season. And there is no more hype. There is no more expectations than those for the Cleveland Browns and the Kansas City Chiefs. Will we see the most amazing skill set of players in Cleveland in recent memory? Will we see the most explosive offense in the NFL, perhaps in NFL history, in Kansas City? The expectations are high. Which one do you believe has a better chance to live up to those expectations? It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. I'm going to tell you which one I believe will live up to the hype, and I'm also going to tell you 2 teams whose expectations are much lower and will exceed what we all expect. First of all, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns do have an amazing collection of skill players, an amazing collection of talent on what has been an absolutely buried franchise. Baker Mayfield at quarterback, I am a true believer. I gave you my rankings of quarterbacks throughout the NFL yesterday here on the Stephen A. Smith Show with Will Cain. I'll recap those in a minute, and I am going to subject my list of top 20 quarterbacks to scrutiny. I'm going to subject my list to Pro Football Focus's top 10 quarterbacks and a survey of all the league executives on who they think is in the top, second, and third tier of quarterbacks in the league. But for now, know that I had Baker Mayfield come in at 15th. Because that's where Baker Mayfield is today, in my opinion. It's where Baker Mayfield is off of one half of one season. And it was magical. But I have to acknowledge that that's very little evidence to work on. I have to acknowledge that the league will adjust. There'll be more tape on Baker Mayfield. And that there exists the possibility of a sophomore slump. Trust me, I'm buying Baker stock over the long term. But you have to expect Baker Mayfield at this point to have at least some trouble reaching what is now mind-blowing expectations. This offseason, I've seen top 10 talk. I've even seen elite status talk for Baker Mayfield. And joining Baker, you've got Odell Beckham Jr., who was just recently profiled in a GQ profile. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that a little bit later in the show. You've got Nick Chubb, eventually Kareem Hunt. You've got Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, and you've got the expectations of a high-flying offense. Add to that a defense that turned the ball over last year, although that's not a stat we can count on from year to year. But a defense that turned the ball over 31 times and added talent to it, and the hype is there for the Browns. On the other side of this debate is the Kansas City Chiefs, and there are many that are now asking, could this be a historically prolific offense? If the hype for Baker Mayfield was high, the hype for Patrick Mahomes is higher. There's conversations about whether or not he is the top quarterback in the league. And he's given us a full season of evidence and every throw in the book to form those opinions upon. He's got Travis Kelce. He's got Tyreek Hill. He's got Sammy Watkins. And at running back, he's got Damian Williams. More question marks, quite honestly. How good will Damian Williams be over the long haul as compared to Kareem Hunt, who they lost? Will there be some regression to the mean? There almost always is. When you have a high-flying offense and a quarterback that throws for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns, there is some expectation that there's a regression to the mean, a regression to the average. It's no indictment of Patrick Mahomes. It's no indictment of Andy Reid of the Kansas City Chiefs. It's just the way it goes. So could the Kansas City Chiefs be a team that fail to live up to expectations? Given these two choices, given the Kansas City Chiefs or the Cleveland Browns, the team I feel most confident in living up to expectations is the Kansas City Chiefs. I've seen it. I acknowledge the question marks going from Kareem Hunt to Damian Williams. I acknowledge that it's going to be hard to maintain that offensive clip, and I'm not sure the Chiefs' defense is going to be able to pick up the slack. But I also know the Kansas City Chiefs have showed me something of who they can be. The Cleveland Browns have not. The Cleveland Browns have put together a gold-embossed, thick, fancy-papered resume to lay across the desk of all of our offices. It looks great, and it is unproven. Can this collection of egos and talent come together? Can these big personalities coexist in that locker room? Can Freddie Kitchens, a first-time head coach, who really is jumping all the way from quarterback coach to head coach in a flash second, capable of bringing all this together? No. If I'm picking who has the best opportunity to live up to the hype, it is the Kansas City Chiefs. And Louis Riddick, ESPN NFL front office insider, he feels similarly.
Patrick is going to be better this year than he was last year. You can see as far as how they are documenting his offseason. The guy right now is being pushed to the limits as far as the coaching staff to even be better. I think their weapons are still going to be there. All the weapons are going to be there. Obviously, there's no Kareem Hunt this year, but Damian Williams will be fine. He'll be the focal point of the run game. Travis Kelce is going to be there. The question is, on the defensive side, how much better are they? With a whole new defensive staff, switching from a 3-4 to a 4-3, that's where the question marks are, but I think this team is going to be loaded for bear, and they will give New England all they can handle.
You tell me which team has a better chance to live up to the hype. 888-729-3776 on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Yesterday, I gave you one stat. I gave you the stat of takeaways, of turnovers forced, as one of the most volatile stats in the NFL. Changes from year to year. That the Jags go in 2017 from turning the ball over, forcing turnovers, 33 times on the season to 17 the next year. And their record follows suit. They go from 10-6 in the AFC Championship game to 5-11. And you can find examples of this across the board. It's not just the Jaguars from 2017, it's the Lions. It's not just the Jags and Lions, it's the Eagles. All teams that force turnovers at a lower rate, and their record reflected that inability to turn the ball over. It is highly predictive of success and highly unpredictable year to year. So who turned the ball over last year? I told you yesterday here on the Stephen A. Smith Show with Will Cain that the teams that turned the ball over most successfully a year ago were the Houston Texans, Los Angeles Rams, Cleveland Browns, and 36 times to lead the league, the Chicago Bears. If you're looking for teams that would be underperformers, that regress, that are incapable of keeping up that level of turnover, and then seeing their records decline, look to the Cleveland Browns. Look to the Chicago Bears. Look to the Houston Texans. But on the flip side, today, I wanted to give you two teams that I think could outperform expectations. Two teams that could rise. I've just told you there's a lot of hype around the Browns and the Chiefs. Now, here are two teams that I don't think there is enough hype around, enough focus on. Teams that people are sleeping on, if you will. Two teams you should watch this season. First, the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings are one calendar year removed from appearing in the NFC Championship game. They had an absolutely suffocating defense in 2017, stacked across the board. They took that team and they added to it not one, but two really important pieces. One of the best wide receiving cores in the league, Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs, added, yes, Kirk Cousins, but also Dalvin Cook. who was coming off of injury and coming out of Florida State and promised to give them a running game. And yet the Vikings missed the playoffs last year. For what it's worth, they were mid-table of the league in takeaways. They outperform on that stat. They live up to expectations. I believe the Minnesota Vikings could very well win the NFC North this coming season. I think the Chicago Bears will take a step backwards. I'm not yet a believer in Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur together. And the Detroit Lions just aren't there yet under Matt Patricia. I think the Minnesota Vikings aren't getting enough hype, and I expect them to jump up this year and not just be a playoff team, but to win the NFC North. And the other team that I believe will exceed expectations, partially because the hype is so low this offseason, would be the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons also are just a year or two removed from performing at the highest level, and they still have a ton of talent that has been bitten by the injury bug. Matt Ryan can. There seems to be a lot of Matt Ryan doubters. I had him in my top 10 yesterday. I had him as the 9th ranked quarterback in the league. He's still got Julio Jones. He's got Freeman. They've added to the defense. I think the Atlanta Falcons will give the Saints a run for their money and very likely could be the winners of the NFC South. That's two teams that I think can exceed expectations. And remember, it's all about expectations. Promise me a 6 and deliver a 7, you're a hero. You get a raise. You get a promotion. Promise me an 8, deliver me a 7, you're a disappointment. You're a failure. In either case, you still produced a 7, but think how differently we view you in those two situations. The hype is high around the Chiefs and the Browns and low around the Vikings and the Falcons. As Straight Talk brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, everything for less, only at Walmart. Hey, Cale in Missouri, what's up? You're on the Stephen A. Smith Show with Will Cain.
Hi, Will. I just wanted to tell you that the Chiefs are going to be better than they were last year. All you got to do is improve a little bit upon that defense, and it's going to take them a lot further. If they had a better defense, just a little bit better of a defense, we would have seen a different Super Bowl.
So given these two, Cale, between the Browns and the Chiefs, you're telling me you think the Chiefs are the ones that live up to expectations?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Hold on right there, Cale. Don't go anywhere.
Yes, sir.
Kat, put Cale on hold for me. I want him to hear this because I got Patrick in Cleveland on the Stephen A. Smith Show with Will Cain. What's up, Patrick?
What's up, man? So, yeah, I think that the Browns are going to live up to the hype. I think that adding Kareem Hunt is a big thing. And, Jarvis Landry did great last season, and so did Baker Mayfield. He came out of the gate strong.
Okay. Hold on, Patrick. Hold on. Okay, Patrick, stay right there. All right, let me have them together, Kat. Cale, did you hear what Patrick just argued here? He said they're going to get Kareem Hunt. Although I don't really know when they get Kareem Hunt.
8 games. So
get him, Cale.
Yeah. I mean, Kareem Hunt's awesome. I mean, what are you going to do for the first 8 games of the year, though? I mean, you're going to have a back introduced to a team that he has not practiced with. He's going to be there for the last 8 games of the season.
Cale's coming strong, Patrick.
I understand. I'm a Baker Mayfield fan. I like Baker Mayfield, but they're not going to be anywhere as close as good as the Chiefs are.
Go, Patrick.
Sorry,
Go, Patrick.
Is the big I don't know. I think Odell Beckham Jr. is going to be
Patrick,
for us.
Patrick,
so.
time out. Turn your radio or television down, Patrick. Quick, before you're disqualified. Quick, you're about to be disqualified. You got get him now. You got a few seconds.
Okay, so Odell Beckham Jr. has all these supposedly red flags around him, what he's going to be like off field and all that. Stephen A. was saying it this morning on First Take, and what's he going to do in Cleveland? Like, there's nothing to do in Cleveland, but there is a lot to do.
Okay, I got you, Patrick.
And he has the money to fly elsewhere, but
time. Quick, Cale, respond. He said you got all those egos, and Odell could be a problem. That's gonna be a problem. But Cale, you're arguing for the Chiefs anyway.
Absolutely.
So
you're saying
he agreed with you.
The Browns are going to be a problem. I get that, but you're also forgetting about Travis Kelce. You're forgetting about Tyreek Hill. You're forgetting about Patrick Mahomes. You're also forgetting about our defensive star from last year, which is Chris Jones. He's going to be a stud. I'm not a Browns hater. I'm actually rooting for them because they've been so horrible for so long.
Patrick, why'd you start? Hey, Patrick, why'd you start arguing against yourself? Why'd you start talking about the potential Odell problems? That was Cale's job. Why are you cutting down your own argument, Patrick?
I'm trying to. I'm just saying that I don't think there will be. I think that it's a good place for them to be because they're not as many distractions. But I'm sick of the people hating on Cleveland as a whole because it's fun.
Hey, I'm not hating on Cleveland as a whole.
And back to the teams, I think that there is a lot of hype for the Browns, and I know Kansas City is great.
All right, we got you. All right, ding, 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 ding. All right. First take, last take here on the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio with Will Cain, and your winner is Cale from Missouri. He wins on that particular debate on which team lives up to the hype, the Chiefs or the Browns. I'll keep coming to your calls throughout the show today, but first, let me move forward for a second. Yesterday, I laid out for you my top 20 quarterbacks in the NFL. And the reason that I did that is because I wanted to subject this idea, an idea that we've popularized on the Will Cain Show, that you shouldn't pay average quarterbacks great quarterback dollars. And in that, I laid out the top 20 quarterbacks. In the last day, since that time, there's been several other quarterback ranking lists that have come out. Pro Football Focus put out their list of quarterbacks, as did Mike Sando. Mike Sando used to work here at ESPN, and he now works for The Athletic. Mike Sando surveys 55 league executives. He surveys GMs, executives across the league, and asks them to place quarterbacks into tiers. And he says, which quarterback is a tier 1 quarterback, tier 2 quarterback, tier 3 quarterback? The overall takeaway is you ought to know my rankings are pretty good. My rankings yesterday are pretty spot on. But I wanted to focus in on 3 quarterbacks that I have a different opinion of than the rest of the league. Number 1, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was ranked by league executives across this survey as the top quarterback in the league. Number 1. He was placed ahead of Tom Brady. He was placed ahead of Drew Brees. And he was placed ahead of Patrick Mahomes. I had Aaron Rodgers ranked 4th. Here's the thing. It's 2 straight years of no playoff appearances for Aaron Rodgers. It is Aaron Rodgers who has a new coach, a rookie head coach. And this is coming fresh off of an experience where he had trouble meshing with and following direction from Mike McCarthy. And the concern with Rodgers is, as one league executive put it in this column, is that you don't know what plays are called and whether or not he will audible outside of the play. And you never know, is he going to play within the offense or try to take a shot down the field? Aaron Rodgers, in effect, can do more with less, but seems to almost always be doing it on his own. And it matters not whether or not he has the talent around him or not. Aaron Rodgers has to be able to fit into Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers offense for him to be the top quarterback in the league. There's a famous story when Charlie Weiss was the offensive coordinator of the New England Patriots, and he called a play in practice for Tom Brady to run. Tom Brady dropped back and threw the ball 20 yards to a wide open receiver for the play. Weiss took his play call sheet and his whistle off of his neck, barked at Brady, and said, "Why did you throw the ball there? The play called for the out route. It's 10 yards over there. A 10-yard gain. Why did you hold the ball and deliver it 20 yards downfield to an open receiver?" And Brady says, "Because he was open. Took the bigger play." And Weiss threw the play sheet and threw the whistle at Brady and said, "Then you be the offensive coordinator." Brady said, "No, you're right, coach. If the play calls for this, then I need to deliver this." And the reason for that is because the offense works together as a whole. It's not a collection of individual plays. It's that one play sets up the defense for another play, that you take profits instead of gambling for big gains. That's what Rodgers has to be able to do with Matt LaFleur, and he has shown a resistance to doing in the past. Until that's the case, I will take Drew Brees. I will take Pat Mahomes, who was an up-and-coming arm talent on the level of Aaron Rodgers, and I will take Tom Brady over Rodgers. Another quarterback that there was a discrepancy between me and the league on. I ranked Mitch Trubisky 17th in the league. League executives had Mitch Trubisky ranked 25th in the league. Now, what's fascinating here is that there's a few quarterbacks, and two of them that I had big disagreement with this survey on, Dak Prescott and Mitch Trubisky, that they acknowledge some level of divisiveness, some level of we're not sure on Mitch Trubisky. He got 6 tier 2 votes, and yet he ended up down in tier 4. Here's a quote from a league executive. He has a really good arm. He can make the great throw. He has a good deep ball. He's not afraid to stand in the pocket. He's not afraid of the noise of getting hit, and which is a good sign. I just don't know. I just don't think he really knows what's going on yet. There's some that said he's an Andy Dalton. He'll live up to a 3. I'm not out on Mitch Trubisky. I think Mitch Trubisky can be something. I just acknowledge the questions, and I would still take him above some other quarterbacks like Eli or Jameis Winston or Andy Dalton or Joe Flacco or Derek Carr that league executives still have ranked ahead of Mitch Trubisky. I'll buy stock on Mitch Trubisky. All right, let's go one more back to the Shell Pennzoil Performance Zone where I got Mike in Denver. What's up, Mike?
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm good.
I just wanted to chime in about the Cleveland Browns. You know, all this hype about what they gonna do and everything. You know, that football real funny, man. You gonna have to jail at the right time, man.
Right.
That ain't no catapult for Division A, and I still think the Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers going to be at the top of the division. So, you know, we're going to see what's going to go on. I just want to know what your take on with Odell going there and Baker Mayfield with all this chatter he giving out. How you think they're going to do?
I agree with you, Mike, on at least half of what you had to say. I think thanks for the call, by the way. I think there's a lot between paper and hype and delivering on the football field. A lot of ground to cover. I think the Cleveland Browns have a lot to live up to the hype. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are the better bet, not the Baltimore Ravens, to land ahead of the Cleveland Browns. All right, coming up, who are the most valuable franchises across the entire sports landscape? I give you European soccer. I give you Major League Baseball. I give you the NBA, and I give you football. What's the most valuable franchise across the sports world? It's the Stephen A. Smith Show with Will Cain filling in. When you're hiring, you don't want to waste time sorting through dozens of irrelevant resumes. You want an efficient way to get a short list of qualified candidates. That's why you need Indeed.com. Post a job in minutes, set up screener questions based on your job requirements, then zero in on qualified candidates using an intuitive online dashboard. Discover why 3 million businesses use Indeed for hiring. Post a job today at Indeed.com/hire. Search for greatness, search Indeed. Who's the most valuable franchise in sports? Next on the Stephen A. Smith Show.
Your radio, your computer.
And who's going to bring what to the table to see how they all mesh? Nobody knows, man. How's it going to mesh? You're talking about sacrifice? And then perhaps most concerning of all, I'm definitely excited about Kevin for sure. Oh, how's that going to land with Kyrie? Is there favoritism, even realistic favoritism? There should be favoritism. Does Kyrie know that? Does Kyrie believe that? Kyrie is a risk. We have to acknowledge it. And Ramona Shelburne, ESPN's NBA Insider, has talked about it.
If you are a cynic, you could argue that Kyrie Irving, who did not work and play well with a young team that had a nice culture in Boston, that team could have some chemistry issues before Kevin ever sets foot on a court, before he ever comes back. I don't know. I really don't. It's like Kevin's going to be gone a whole year. Is he even going to be there? Or is he going to be rehabbing in New York? Is he going to go to Germany? Is he? We don't how much are they even going to be together that whole first year?
Kyrie is a risk. So who took on the bigger risk? They both needed to make the deal. The Nets and the Lakers, you did what you had to do, and nobody's second guessing it. But even if you buy a home, you need to ask yourself, hey, will this home appreciate? What's the crime rate like? Who are the neighbors? What are the local taxes like? What's the school district like? You need to ask yourself tough questions. Acknowledge the risks out there. In the end, you'd still buy the home. But you got to go through the analysis. You got to be real with yourself. And the Nets and the Lakers need to be real about the risks they just took on. Is AD there for only 1 year? Will Kyrie mess up the chemistry in Brooklyn? Can Kyrie and KD figure out leadership? For my money, the biggest risk was taken by Los Angeles and taking on AD for only 1 year. And that is because of the price paid. Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, and picks into the future. Think about the downside. If AD doesn't stay, if the most pessimistic outcomes do come true. That franchise is handicapped for far into the future. The price paid was much bigger. If all the pessimism and worst case scenarios come true in the Nets, they still have a young base of talent to work around.
These quotes, the truth is the ultimate defense. What he's saying is 100% true. He was the show in New York, and he was worth watching even when the team was bad.
I got to imagine that not only does Odell want to go play well and whatnot, but he also wants to prove I wasn't the problem.
It'll go well as long as Baker Mayfield can get him the football and Freddie Kitchens and the offense can work well and they win.
Odell, the criticism, the judgment, the bad circumstances, they're not going away. The only question is, are you?
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line.
You know, yesterday I had some harsh words, some criticism for Odell Beckham Jr. I had some criticism about the way he lets criticism affect him, how he seems to be a victim of other people's opinions, that he seems to be the log floating down the river instead of the rock that the water breaks around. Yesterday I had some harsh criticism for Odell Beckham Jr., but today I do not. It's the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Will Cain filling in for Stephen A. There is a way others are criticizing Odell Beckham, things he said in his GQ interview that I simply disagree with. Let me talk about criticism for one moment. So yesterday, after filling in for Stephen A. here on ESPN Radio, I was in New York and I had a meeting post-show, and the guy asked me to meet him, and it was all very hush-hush, high-level type stuff, so I can't really tell you who I was meeting with or what it was about, but just you should know it was big time. That's the main thing you should know. Big time meetings, big time places, right? You with me? So, Four Seasons Lobby. So, Four Seasons Lobby, downtown New York City. All right? So, I'm sitting in the lobby. I'm sitting on the couch. And there's nobody else in the lobby. Just me and the doorman, who is a First Take fan. And, you know, we're talking a little bit and having some nice back and forth. And the guy, like everybody says, is make sure you keep giving it to Stephen A. I will. And then I'm sitting on this couch by myself, right? And right next to me to my left is a chair. And I feel this dude walk in, plop himself down in the chair. He doesn't look at me and I don't look at him. And then we both look up at the same time and see each other. And of all the people I've ever criticized on these airwaves in my 3 years of doing sports talk, of all my time on any particular issue or a multitude of issues from on the field to off the field that I've had the harshest criticism for, it was this man. I looked over and I said, Michael. He said, yeah. Michael Bennett. Yeah. Will Cain. He goes, I know who you are. But then we proceeded to have a very nice conversation, guarded, but nice. And I told Michael this, man, let's be real. I've had some criticism for you. I've had some criticism for you across the board, off and on the field. I've disagreed with you. I've disagreed with some stances you've taken. I disagreed with the way you described certain incidences that it's happened. But one thing I want you to know about me is that I don't live in a glass house. If you disagree with me, you are welcome to tell me why. If you think I'm wrong, I want you to tell me why. Any platform I'm on is an open forum. Any platform I'm on, I not only welcome you into it, I'm asking you to give me a call, 888-729-3776. I'm asking you to tell me how I'm wrong. Let 2019, let the state of society push you into your corners in every other aspect of life. But when talking with me about anything, including sports or anything else, not here. We do it together. That's how I'm built. That's how I work. And I invited Michael Bennett to come onto this show, my show, do a long-form podcast, talk about everything we disagree with. He said, yes, we traded numbers. We'll see if it happens. Hey, you need seats to a game? Download the Vivid Seats app and enter promo code CHAMPS at checkout to get 10% off your first order. Don't buy just any seat, get a Vivid seat. The reason I thought about that was the concept of criticism and Odell Beckham Jr. Yesterday, I said in the GQ profile of Odell Beckham, I thought he's way too influenced by the things people have to say about him. But I wake up today And many are criticizing Odell Beckham Jr. for talking about his time with the Giants, as though he's fixated on the Giants, that the Giants were only popular on Monday Night Football because Odell was playing for the Giants. And the truth is, Odell is telling the truth. I don't have a problem with that. He was the star of the New York Giants. He was the star attraction. Look, every single one of us have things we want to talk about at our job. People, decisions, ways of management. Every single one of us. He's freed from working from that organization. The interviewer's asking him about the Giants over and over. And he's going to tell them now. Maybe it's better, more diplomatic to take a no comment, I now work for the Cleveland Browns type approach. But I get it. A, he's being asked about it. And B, he no longer works there. And anybody that's moved jobs knows you have some things to say about the last place that you worked. I have criticism for Odell Beckham Jr., but not on this one. Not on the fact that he has some observations about his previous place of employment. The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio. Will Cain filling in for Stephen A. I'll tell you in just a minute which are the most valuable franchises in sports. But first, let's go to Cody in Nebraska. What's up, Cody? You're on the Stephen A. Smith Show with Will Cain.
Will Cain, big fan, loved you for a long time. Probably agree with you more than I should. I just want to tell you, buddy, how proud of you I am. I thought for sure when you were talking about teams that were going to over succeed from what the hype is, I thought for sure you were going to throw your Homer Cowboys in. And you didn't.
Well, but now you say that, now that I think about it, and you put it that way. No, I didn't, Cody. I said the Vikings and the Falcons. That's it? That's all you got, Cody?
That's all.
You just want to tell me
I got for you, man.
You just proud of me?
Tell you how proud of you I am, man.
Oh, well, thank you, Cody.
For me.
It's a big day for me. I got the pride of Cody in Nebraska. Thank you, man. Let's go to one more. Whitaker in North Carolina. What's up, Whitaker?
Hey, what's up, Will Cain? I'm here to talk about the Pro Football Focus QB rankings because I think they got the last 6 to 10, all wrong. Completely wrong.
All right, give it to me quick.
So top 4 was perfect. Love that. You can interchange that. But I think at Phillip Rivers at 9 should be bumped up, either taking the place of Russell Wilson or right behind. But Baker Mayfield, as much as I love Baker, because what he's done to invigorate Cleveland has been great for the game. Love the Cleveland hype. But Dak Prescott deserves that 10. This dude had the 3rd lowest interception percentage rating last year, and he had 5 game-winning drives. And I know you're a big Dak Prescott fan. You're a big Cowboys guy. So I feel like you agree with me on this point, that Dak Prescott deserves that top 10. I know you got him at 10 in your book, right?
That's right. So you felt right.
So I think that Dak Prescott absolutely deserves this credit. And I also think that Baker, Deshaun, and maybe throwing Carson Wentz and Jared Goff should be right outside this top 10. But I want to hear your take on what you think Pro Football Focus did wrong in that top 10.
Thanks, Whitaker. Mainly, it's hard to keep up. How was it a year ago that I was saying, and my producer from the Will Cain Show was producing the Stephen A. Smith Show this week along with me. I'm not going to say I was the only guy, but I was really among a few who believed in Baker Mayfield to the extent of saying he should be the number 1 overall pick. I believed in Baker from jump, but I'm having a hard time where everybody goes from, oh, he's maybe a first-round quarterback to maybe mid-teens to now they've got him at 10th. Here's the thing. I think Baker could soon be there. But to say he's there right now, ahead of Goff, Wentz, and yes, Dak Prescott, is too early. It's like everything in society, man. The pendulum swings so hard and so fast in both ways. You can't keep up. It just made me think about when I used to work in news. I was working at CNN, and the former governor of New York, Eliot Spitzer, said to me, Will, 100% approval rating is terrible. You don't want to have 100% approval rating because as quickly as it could be 100% approval rating, it could be 0%. I feel like that's how everybody swings, like, boom, and then all the way back the other way. And it's what's happening with like Baker and everybody else who swings so fast. The truth is Baker's about 14th, 15th in the league right now, and that's an awesome place to be after half of a season in the NFL. And at the end of this next year, I expect he will climb even more. But you don't have to be the first. You don't have to be the first to get there. All right, I still have for you the most valuable franchises across the sports landscape, and it turns out that Kawhi Leonard didn't become a Los Angeles Laker in part because of one man who was part of the problem of Kawhi joining the Los Angeles Lakers. That's next on the Stephen A. Smith Show with Will Cain. The satisfying crunch of Nature Valley Crunchy Bars can keep your family going, which means more outside fun for you. And with whole grain oats and real delicious honey, it's really tasty too. Nature Valley Oats and Honey Crunch Bars.
Barbasol. For the past 100 years, generations of men have trusted Barbasol shaving cream for a close, comfortable shave.
The Big 12 has decided that the horns down sign will be penalized if done in an intimidating fashion. You guys have all seen this when the Texas Longhorns play, or actually when they don't play sometimes. You'll see people in the crowd, and increasingly you'll see players on the field take the hook 'em horn sign that everybody does who's affiliated with the University of Texas, pinky and forefinger up, making a hook 'em horns and pointing it down. It's a sign of disrespect. It's right there in the face of Longhorns fans and alumni, both of which I am. And apparently college football has had enough of it. First, Greg Burks, the Big 12's coordinator of officials, said that this, and I'm quoting, like any play, there is a degree. Who it's directed at, if they do it in their bench area, we're not going to look at it. It would be like any other celebration foul. So it has to be like any foul we have. Does it rise to the level we need to deal with that? It's a hot topic. I know people want us to be definitive on that, but it's like any touchdown celebration. Is it directed at an opponent or just a celebration with your teammates? So it's like pornography then. Or at least how the Supreme Court try to define obscenity and pornography. I can't tell you what it is, but I know it when I see it. So an official in the Big 12 can't tell you when horns down isn't a penalty, but he'll know it when he sees it. It's a degree thing. Did you do it in an intimidating fashion? You're trying to show up your opponent, or you're just having fun? Well, that's weak. It's weak sauce. And it's a gray area, and all it's going to invite is debate and controversy. Some ref decides either is or isn't. It's over the line or it isn't. It's intimidating or it's fun and celebratory. Get out of here with that, man. You can't tell the difference. And that's why you shouldn't be penalizing communication anyway. Look, I'm a Longhorn alumni and a Longhorn fan. Deal with it. Don't deal in victimhood. Don't deal in the false power of being offended.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appeared via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line.
Who's the most valuable franchise across the sports landscape? It's the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio. Will Cain filling in for Stephen A. You can normally catch me 3 to 6 Eastern on all your same television and radio dials. So here are your top 6 most valuable franchises across the sports landscape. At number 6, the Los Angeles Lakers, valued at... I'm sorry, I want to get to that. Hold on, let me reset. That's operating income, which I wanted to get to in a second. Here is valuations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At number 5, the New York Knicks at $4 billion. At number 4, Barcelona, FC Barcelona. I heard Greeny the other day say Barca, but, tomato. $4.2 billion. Real Madrid, $4.2 billion. The New York Yankees, $4.6 billion. And the most valuable franchise across the sports landscape, the Dallas Cowboys, at $5 billion. I did write down who was making the most money. Now, Forbes, I'm going to tell you right now, doesn't have a good way of measuring this. I don't know how they're getting to operating income on things that are wrapped up league-wide. how they're getting to the financial statements of things that are not easily peered through. The really only franchises out there that you can tell exactly how much they're worth and how much they make are the ones that are publicly traded. And that's soccer clubs like Manchester United. It's traded on a stock exchange. And that squad, Manchester United, made $238 million last year. It's just above the New England Patriots, who made $235 million. That's operating income. The Lakers, for example, and the Giants made about $149 million last year. And most teams across the 50 most valuable franchises in sports made around $100 million. And the Dallas Cowboys made $365 million last year. The lesson in these Forbes rankings is the same lesson we learn in ratings. It's the same lesson we learn in ticket sales. It's the same lesson we learn in merchandise. It's all connected. Brands sell. Stars sell. Recognizable names and brands are what fans tune in for. I know that I want parity. I want competition. For example, in the NBA, I want more teams, not a league dominated by the Golden State Warriors. I want more teams in on it. I love March Madness, one and done tournaments where anything could happen. I love the NFL, which has turnover from year to year outside the New England Patriots. But brands and expectations are what sell. That's what you learn from these Forbes rankings. Stephen A. Smith Show, Will Cain filling in for Stephen A. Josh in Minnesota. What's up, Josh? You're on the show.
Hey, Will. Just want to give you kudos on getting up to the Stephen A. Smith Show, covering that. Love it.
Thank you.
However, I don't think you're right on the Falcons winning the South. I'm a Panthers guy myself.
All right. Well, so what? You think the Panthers are going to win it all? What are you doing? What are you saying?
No. I don't think the Panthers are going to win it all. I think that it's the Saints. I mean, how can you go against Drew Brees?
Well, look, I like Drew Brees. I have him ranked third in the league when it comes to quarterback play. And I like the Saints. They were my pick through much of the season last year. They got a defense now, and they got a running game. Here's the big question mark. Here's the red flag on the Saints. It's Drew Brees' quarterback play over the second half of the season. It did tail off. And I just think the Falcons are being slept on. I think the Falcons are better than what everybody is thinking. They've been ravaged by injuries and written off now, forgotten from where they were just a few short years ago. I'm telling you that I think the Falcons are going to be right there at the top of the NFC South. Mike in Jersey. What's up, Mike? You're on the Stephen A. Smith Show with Will Cain.
Hey, Will. Big fan, dude. I got a quick question for you. Do you think that the 49ers are going to make the biggest jump from last season to this season?
Man, Mike, I just can't put them in that category yet. It's time, right? They need to. I said this the other day when filling in for Stephen A. I said everybody gets a grace period. And the grace period for the San Francisco 49ers is just about over. It's time to turn those expectations into results on the field. It's time to see Jimmy Garoppolo play a full season. It's time to see Kyle Shanahan's offense deliver. But I don't know. I mean, what? We're going to get Tevin Coleman, Jerick McKinnon healthy. You got talent on the defensive line. I just don't know that I can leapfrog the 49ers over the Seahawks and the Rams. I'm not picking the Rams for regression. I've seen some people start to do that, say the Rams are a team primed for the regression. No, I'm not doing that with the Rams. And although I'm not a full believer in the Seahawks, I think Russell Wilson is going to keep them around 9-7, 8-8. I think he's going to keep them around that range. So can I predict the San Francisco 49ers jump to 9-7 or better? No, I can't do that yet. Not yet. All right, I'll put all these quarterback questions, and I'll ask ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck who he thinks will be the surprise team in the NFL this year. Next on the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio with Will Cain filling in.
The Stephen A. Smith Show starts right now.
What's up, y'all? It's the Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio, ESPN Apps, here, Sexton Channel 80, and on ESPN News, Will Cain filling in for Stephen A. You can normally catch me 3 to 6 Eastern on all those same television and radio channels. I've been talking today about surprise teams in the NFL and quarterbacks. Mike Sando at The Athletic and Pro Football Focus both put out rankings of their quarterbacks. This one day after I shared with you here on the Stephen A. Smith Show my top 20 quarterbacks in the NFL. And Mike Sando and Pro Football Focus highlighted a couple of differences in quarterbacks that I have ranked a little bit differently. First of all, Aaron Rodgers was number 1 in these rankings, and I have him at number 4 behind Brady, Breeze, and Mahomes. Mitch Trubisky, who I believe is going to take a step forward, is somebody they have down at 25. And Dak Prescott, I ranked yesterday as the 10th best quarterback in the NFL, and Dak Prescott is ranked 17th by both publications. Hunter from Texas. What's up, Hunter? You're on the Stephen A. Smith Show with Will Cain.
What's up, Will Cain? I think that LeBron James is a GOAT, and you're tripping because he's top 10 all-time in points, top 10 in all-time assists. No one else has ever done that.
What are we talking about? When was I talking about LeBron James, Hunter?
Right now.
I was just talking about quarterbacks.
But I want to talk about LeBron because he's the best ever.
Hunter, I'll tell you what, man. You talk about LeBron on your show. Where's your show? I'll tune in. By the way, he's not. Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time. Thanks for the call, Hunter. What a weird thing, because also, it says Dak. He wants to talk about Dak, but he calls in and tells me he wants to tell me LeBron James is the greatest of all time. All right, well, you're wrong, Hunter. It's Michael Jordan. All right, let me put some of these football questions to our ESPN NFL analyst, Tim Hasselbeck, who joins me on the show, Pennzoil Performance Line. So, Tim, I was just talking about a couple of teams that I think could make the jump this year. Two of those teams are the Vikings and the Falcons, who could exceed expectations. If you look across the NFL right now, who do you think could be a new playoff team or a team that will go further than they did last year?
Well, you know, as you were kind of setting that up there, my initial thought was the Vikings. So that would have been the first team that jumps out, you know, at me. I wouldn't disagree with your assessment of the Falcons. Obviously, it's a competitive division there. But, you know, that team was so ravaged with injuries last season that I think when you look at what last year was and what this upcoming year could be, I could see those being different. And then I'll go off the radar a little bit with a team that I think has a shot to be, I don't know if it'll be a playoff team this year, but I think that we could still be into December and this team really has legitimate playoff hopes in front of them, and that'd be the Jets. I think there's a chance that there could be that type of turn for the Jets. So those would be three teams that jump out at me.
Wow. Tell me more about the Jets. You think Sam Darnold is primed to take the lead?
Listen, I mean, Sam Darnold was, you know, just past being a teenager when he was drafted. I mean, he was so young. I mean, he's 20 years old when he gets drafted. He, you know, I thought he got better as the year went along. Obviously, he's going to have to, you know, learn a new offense, and there's going to be some changes, and there'll be some challenges there. But you just think about, you know, some of the talent they added around him, and most notably, obviously, Le'Veon Bell. You know, sometimes we're out of sight, out of mind when we talk about these teams. And the reality for Bell is that, you know, 2 years ago, you could easily make the argument that he's, you know, the best running back in the game in terms of what he is as a runner, but then how versatile he is and how good he is in the passing game. So, you know, you add that type of production and help and versatility to a young ascending player. I think it can end up making you way, way more competitive. Now, obviously, you know, New England's going to be the king of that division, but, you know, can they win enough games that they're in a wild card, you know, position? So I don't know. I just think we have all this talk about, hey, here come the Browns and, you know, certain teams that everybody seems to be all on. And I just think the Jets have a good young quarterback and an outstanding running back now.
Talking to ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Will Cain filling in for Stephen A. So Le'Veon Bell and what he can do for Sam Darnold. That's fascinating. Let me follow up on that. So right now, Julio Jones, Amari Cooper, Michael Thomas, and Tyreek Hill are four wide receivers that are on the verge or wanting to get paid. At the same time, you've got Ezekiel Elliott, you got Melvin Gordon, and some running backs who are approaching that same pay window. If you were a team, and really the Cowboys are the only one perhaps in this exact debate, but if you were a team that was having to choose between paying top dollar for a receiver or top dollar for a running back, which way would you go?
Oh, I would go receiver. Like out of that group and those young guys, I'd be more like Michael Thomas would be the guy, just in terms of age, production, and then how long, you know, I think he can play based on what his game looks like and how it can translate. And so, you know, when you get into, you know, the Melvin Gordon or Ezekiel Elliott or, you know, guys like that, then, look, I don't think they're going to continue to be. I don't think they'll continue to impact the game when they're Julio Jones's age. Julio's, he's played through 2 deals, so he's, once you get around that 30-year-old mark, like you're just not the same type of player. I mean, think about it this way: Julian Edelman's 33 years old. He still dominates games, and he's never been the type of receiver that Julio is. So I think when you look at the positions in terms of longevity, when you're investing long term, then I think it's a no-brainer that it's a receiver.
So it's about longevity. It's not necessarily about which one helps a young quarterback out or a quarterback out.
Well, I think they both help you out, and I think you could easily make the argument that, a running back, we just talk about touches. A quarterback touches it 65 times a game, because he takes every snap. A running back can touch the football, 30 times in a game potentially. The best receivers in the game, it's an amazing day if they have more than 10 touches. But most of the time they touch it like 5 times a game. So you can make the argument that the running back, can help the quarterback the most. I just think that if you're going to invest long term, the deal for the running back that, the wheels fall off at 29, that hurts your organization more than, paying for, top dollar for a receiver.
Tim Hasselbeck here on the Stephen A. Smith Show with Will Cain. So there's been a couple different lists come out ranking quarterbacks. I put my own out, Tim, yesterday.
That's probably the most important one.
I think it is. I mean, generally the most accurate. Pro Football Focus put one out. So did Mike Sando, who used to be here at ESPN. He's now at The Athletic, where he talked to 55 coaches and executives, and they put quarterbacks into tiers. I want to ask you about a couple of these. So first, Aaron Rodgers comes in number 1 overall, according to Mike Sando's survey of NFL executives. I had Rodgers right now, Tim, behind Brady and Mahomes, and right there with Breeze. At this point, where do you think Aaron Rodgers is in the league?
I don't think you can put him at the top just because he doesn't stay as healthy as those other guys stay. I mean, I don't think you can put him up at the top when Breeze doesn't miss games, Brady doesn't miss games, and Aaron has had multiple seasons where, he gets hurt and he misses time, or he gets hurt and, we're all going on SportsCenter talking about like, wow, yeah, now that he can't run around because of the knee injury, or now that he can't run around because of the calf injury, or, it's the collarbone. So I don't think, durability, availability, I think has to be one of it's kind of probably the most important, factor when you're kind of judging that stuff.
Hey, one of the hardest things to do is to predict what a quarterback is going to be next year, especially early in their career. So what is Deshaun Watson? What is Carson Wentz? What is Baker Mayfield going to be in this next season? And so, for example, in some of these rankings, Tim, and it was that way when I put my ranking out as well, it's like Baker Mayfield's 14 or 15, but that's a reflection of what he's shown so far. He may take a massive leap in this next year. And that happens. It often happens. If you were pointing at a quarterback that's going to jump from 20 or 15 up into the top 10, who would you be watching to take that big leap this year?
Look, so from all the way from 20 into the top 10, all right, well, not knowing where these guys are ranked, where was Mitchell Trubisky?
Mitchell Trubisky, that's a fascinating name, is one of the ones I wanted to bring up with you. So, for example, yesterday on the Stephen A. Smith Show, I put Trubisky at 7.
Is he outside the top 20? Is he close to 20?
I had him at 17, and Sando's survey of the league had him at 25.
Yeah, so if you're asking a guy that's in the 20s that you could maybe be talking about as a top 10, I would say Mitchell Trubisky. And there's a few reasons why. One, listen, for all of these guys, who you're paired with as your offense coordinator, your play designer and your play caller really matters. And I think he's got a very good one in Matt Nagy. The next thing you have to look at is, all right, well, what about the guy's experience? How much football does he have under his belt? And, and so where is that room for improvement? Well, people need to remember, the guy started 12 games in college. His rookie year was basically a bust. And so last year was kind of like the first time we got to kind of see him grow throughout the season. And, after kind of a bad experience his first year, I think we could see another big that's a huge jump for him from year 1 to year 2 in the NFL. And so I think we could continue to see him grow from year 2 to year 3.
So on the other end of that, there's these guys, and it's this category of quarterbacks who are 2, 3, years into their career. And it's, well, how about this, Tim? When do you know? How about that? At what point in a quarterback's career do you feel like you have a good grasp on exactly who this guy is?
I think we know on Jameis Winston. I think we know on Marcus Mariota. So what is that? Those guys are 4 years in now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just think that you probably know it year 4. And
So what about, let's go one draft class lower. What about Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, and Dak Prescott?
Yeah, I mean, listen, sometimes you know right away. Sometimes you know immediately. You know, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is younger, and you know already.
Right.
But I'm saying, like, if you are talking about when do you know, like when a guy hasn't kind of established himself as one of the best, like when do you know? And so, so the guys that are a year younger than Jameis and Marcus, like I think you know about all of those guys. I mean, I think you know that all of those guys are. I mean, shoot, Wentz was at one point basically an MVP candidate, and so we know what level he can play at. Jared Goff has taken a team to the Super Bowl, and Dak Prescott, in terms of just what his production has been and how well he's played, especially with not always awesome, talent around him on the perimeter. Like we know he's a starting quarterback for sure, which is, I think, better than what you can say for those guys that are a year older. I mean, do we really know that Marcus Mariota is a starting quarterback for sure, or Jameis Winston for that matter? I'm not sure that we do. In fact, if I had to make a choice of if they are or they're not, I would say they're not.
On both of them?
Yeah.
If you're on the market next year and those two guys are available, let's say the Titans and the Buccaneers walk away from Winston Mariota, which one are you more confident in picking up?
Well, listen, I think part of it will have to will depend on like what happens this season. Like I can't discount what happens this year, but look, the big thing for Jameis is he's just been an absolute turnover machine, and so if that changes a little bit for him this coming season and he does a better job protecting the ball, I would probably favor him because he has been a better passer than Marcus has been. Marcus's big issue has been he can't stay healthy, and then his ability as a passer in the pocket has left a lot to be desired. So if he stays healthy, and then you just see him as more comfortable as a passer, then you start to factor in kind of off-field stuff and things of that nature. Then I would maybe favor Marcus. But I think it's just an interesting state of the NFL when you look at like both guys have fifth-year options picked up. But I think we would all agree, and I don't know where they ended up in Sando's piece or in these other rankings, but I think most people would agree. I don't think anyone would be like, yeah, I want to build my franchise around those guys. Whereas, I think you can easily say that about Dak. I think you can say that about Kirk Cousins or Jared Goff or Wentz. You can say that about those guys.
Look, Dak is somebody.
This is like the QB roulette game. Like I would ask you.
Okay.
QB roulette.
Okay.
Like you're on Jameis Winston. Are you spinning?
Yeah, I'm spinning on Jameis Winston.
Yeah, and you know what? You might get Josh Allen, but you might get Phillip Rivers. But you're spinning, and I think you're spinning on the Tennessee Titans also.
Are you spinning on Dak Prescott?
I'm not.
Talking to ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck here on the Stephen A. Smith Show with Will Cain filling in. See, Dak is the other one, and you know this. You and I have had enough conversations, and I'm sure much of the audience knows this. I have a different opinion than apparently the league executives do. They see Dak Prescott as a Tier 3 quarterback. 17th is where they have him. And this is part of, like, when I ask you about somebody taking a leap, here he is going into year 4, new offensive coordinator. I actually see that as a very real possibility for Dak Prescott this year, taking a leap and convincing more people.
Well, and think how much better he got just when Amari Cooper joined the team.
Right.
I mean,
but the weird thing, Tim, is then people use that to say, see, he has to have people around him.
And guess what? Most guys do. Like, Matt Ryan's not as good without Julio Jones.
Right.
Like, that's the funny thing sometimes when people are like, well, you need him. I mean, listen, it's not Matt Ryan's fault that is one of the best receivers in the game. Guess what? Deshaun Watson is going to be a heck of a lot better with DeAndre Hopkins. Like so you have to evaluate the guy based on how that team has supported him. I mean that's part of the deal. Now look, I think that's also sometimes you look at it and be like, hey, look, this guy needs help, but most guys do. there are very few guys. There's probably less than 5 guys that they really can just make the guys around them better. And you just take Aaron Rodgers as the example. Like, Devontae Adams is a great player. He would make most quarterbacks a heck of a lot better. But some of those young guys that played for them last year, St. Brown or Marquez Valdez-Scantling, like he helps those guys play better, just like I think Drew Brees does. But most guys need help.
Okay, here's the thing. I think this is my last question with Tim Hasselbeck here on the Stephen A. Smith Show with Will Cain. I think it's fair to say the guys we saw last year, so Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, we need to see. I think we need to see. I think all of those careers could go up or down pretty drastically in one way or the other. Although I believe in Baker, I have to realize with the sample we have, it could go one way or the other pretty drastically still. But after that, I'm going to give you these 2 draft classes, and you tell me which one of these quarterbacks you feel the least confident in, okay? That is Wentz, Goff, and Prescott, and then it's the next year of Mahomes, Trubisky, and Watson. Of those 6, who are you least confident in?
Well, I mean, it's tricky because, Mahomes threw 50 touchdowns.
So it's not him. So it's not Mahomes.
and I was just selling you on Trubisky. I just think that.
But right now he comes in 6th.
Yeah, I mean, just each. Yeah, wait. So who would be 5 then? Who would do? So you have Wentz. Wentz got to stay healthy.
Wentz, Goff, and Prescott, and then it's Trubisky, Mahomes, and
Trubisky.
Watson.
Yeah, I mean, most confident. I'm going to go with Mahomes' class, just because it's kind of like weighting the average.
So Mahomes is 1 and Trubisky is 6. That's how that works.
Well, I mean, do you? And I think, listen, health ends up being a huge factor in this, and so you just look at Wentz and Watson, both significant injuries, and it could be like Brady, where it's like, oh, it's just the 1 year that you had that, and but for other guys, it may not be. The thing I would say is this: I feel like we're in an era where people always blasting quarterbacks, and they're like, "Oh, it's not a good era of quarterbacks." But I think if you're going to rank quarterbacks, and whether it's executives or fans or talk show hosts or whatever, and Dak Prescott is at 17, and then you go and look at what his production is, I think you should be happy with the quality of quarterback play. If you can find 16 quarterbacks that you think are better than Dak Prescott, then I think we've got a bunch of good quarterbacks. And if you have Mitchell Trubisky all the way at 25, then I think that we're in a pretty good era of good quarterback play.
All right, good stuff with Tim Hasselbeck here on the Stephen A. Smith Show with Will Cain. Thanks, man.
You got it. See you.
Okay, see you. That was ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck, brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Tim, big believer in the depth of quarterback play in the NFL right now, and I think that he's right, which puts us back into this position of, well, if you don't want to get caught with an average quarterback, what if we have a whole league full of guys who are above average? I know that doesn't work. On a bell curve, eventually you're going to get to average. But you do have a lot of teams that, let's put it this way, are not willing to walk away from their quarterback, who are willing to pay their quarterback to stay with them. From the Dak Prescotts to the Kirk Cousins. Guys, north of $30 million a year, or set to be north of $30 million a year to deliver quarterback play. All right, Bobby in Scranton. What's up, Bobby? You're on the Stephen A. Smith Show with Will Cain. Bobby? What's up, Bobby?
Yes. Hey, Will, how are you?
I'm good, man.
Philip, big fan. I wanted to get your thought on the ever continuing chess match between the Eagles and the Cowboys when it comes to Carson Wentz's contract versus Dak's upcoming one. Not too long ago, Stephen A. Said that Carson got paid that contract the same amount as Russell Wilson did. He called it white privilege. I disagreed with it by saying that it's a clever chess match piece by the Eagles because I agree with you that Dak does deserve, if not the same contract number that Carson does. And yeah, I'm saying this as an Eagles fan. I'm ready to wash my mouth with soap. But I feel that puts Dallas in a bit of a bind where the Eagles do not have an Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper to pay in the upcoming years. So I think it's gonna make Dallas strap for money. What your thoughts
okay,
are.
thanks for the call, Bobby. The thing is, the Eagles already have maxed out their cap. They've already paid all their guys. They've already paid their Alshon Jeffries of the world, their Fletcher Coxes. They've paid their roster. There's not a ton of room for the Eagles to add to it. The Cowboys have to be able to now pay the guys that are on their roster. I didn't know Stephen A. had said that about Carson Wentz's contract. I'll tell you what, I disagree with that assessment about why Carson Wentz got paid. And I do think the Dak Prescott contract is going to illustrate it. I think there's something else that tells you why Carson Wentz got the money that he got. I'll lay that out. And let's revisit the question that I asked Tim Hasselbeck. Would you rather pay a top receiver or a top running back top dollar? That's coming up next on the Stephen A. Smith Show with Will Cain filling in.
This show and all of ESPN is streaming live on the ESPN app. Now with ESPN Plus, where you get more ESPN. Download the ESPN app today and take ESPN everywhere.
And who's going to bring what to the table to see how they all mesh. Kevin for sure. Oh, how's that going to land with Kyrie? Is there favoritism, even realistic favoritism? There should be favoritism. Does Kyrie know that? Does Kyrie believe that? Kyrie is a risk. We have to acknowledge it. And Ramona Shelburne, ESPN's NBA Insider, has talked about it.
If you are a cynic, you could argue that Kyrie Irving, who did not work and play well with a young team that had a nice culture in Boston, that team could have some chemistry issues before Kevin ever sets foot on a court, before he ever comes back. I don't know. I really don't. It's like Kevin's going to be gone a whole year. Is he even going to be there? Or is he going to be rehabbing in New York? Is he going to go to Germany? Is he? We don't how much are they even going to be together that whole first year?
Kyrie is a risk. So who took on the bigger risk? They both needed to make the deal. The Nets and the Lakers, you did what you had to do, and nobody's second-guessing it. But even if you buy a home, you need to ask yourself, hey, will this home appreciate? What's the crime rate like? Who are the neighbors? What are the local taxes like? What's the school district like? You need to ask yourself tough questions. Acknowledge the risks out there. In the end, you'd still buy the home. But you got to go through the analysis. You got to be real with yourself. And the Nets and the Lakers need to be real about the risks they just took on. Is AD there for only 1 year? Will Kyrie mess up the chemistry in Brooklyn? Can Kyrie and KD figure out leadership? For my money, the biggest risk was taken by Los Angeles and taking on AD for only 1 year. And that is because of the price paid. Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, and picks into the future. Think about the downside. If AD doesn't stay, if the most pessimistic outcomes do come true, that franchise is handicapped for far into the future. The price paid was much bigger. If all the pessimism and worst case scenarios come true in the Nets, they still have a young base of talent to work around.
Jerry Jones loves to pay himself some talent, whether it's quarterback, whether it's running back. If he's got talent, Jerry Jones loves to do it. It's going to be very interesting how Jerry Jones determines the value of Ezekiel Elliott.
Their value is never higher than what it is when you're drafted in the first round overall, and then you start taking NFL hits. It just starts to decrease from there.
I would draft a running back in the first round, and it's just awful to say, but I would wear him out, and then I'd draft another one.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line.
You know, theories, and this is why intellectuals always fail, theories are always great until it's put to the test in the real world. until it gets to nut cutting time, quite honestly. And then theories go out the window and action comes to the forefront. It's the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Will Cain filling in for Stephen A. You know, I often spend time, both here and on the Will Cain Show, talking about theories like, should you ever pay an average quarterback great quarterback dollars? Or should you pay a running back? And we know that statistically they tail off about the time they approach their second contract, about the time they approach 25 years of age. And so when I ask you, would you rather pay a top wide receiver or a top running back? Which would you rather devote resources to? It's all too easy to rely back on theories, as though everything fits neatly into a certain box. Running backs, wide receivers. I put that to Tim Hasselbeck, our ESPN NFL analyst, just a few moments ago here on the Stephen A. Smith Show with Will Cain. And he said, wide receiver. I'd rather pay the wide receiver because of longevity. And he's right. You're going to get a much longer career out of Julio Jones than you are out of Todd Gurley. You're going to get more years of service from a top wide receiver than you will from a top running back. But on the other hand, and as Hasselbeck admitted and pointed out, you're going to get a running back in the short term that has a greater impact on the game than does the receiver. The running back's going to touch the ball 20, maybe 30 times a game. He's going to touch the ball second only to the quarterback. The wide receiver, if he has an outstanding game, will touch the ball 10 to 12 times. More likely, 5 to 7 times a game. So you get short and influential versus long and reliable. And still, that doesn't tell you, would you rather pay the wide receiver or the running back? Would you rather pay Julio Jones or Todd Gurley? Tyreek Hill or Kareem Hunt? Amari Cooper or Ezekiel Elliott? And I think that eventually you get to the point where theories are thrown out the window. You get to action time. You get to where it matters to your squad. So, for example, as many of you know that have listened to this show or my show, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. It's easy to talk about not paying running backs until you're under the gun of not having Ezekiel Elliott. So what I think we have to do is eventually get to a place where we look at these as individual propositions as opposed to positional. I would rather pay Ezekiel Elliott than Amari Cooper and hope to pay them both. But I know that over the short term, honestly, over the length of a contract in the NFL, Ezekiel Elliott's going to have a bigger impact on the outcome of the Dallas Cowboys than is Amari Cooper. And Amari Cooper had a massive impact on the Cowboys offense over the second half of the season. I believe that in the opposite, Tyreek Hill, bigger impact on the Kansas City Chiefs offense than Kareem Hunt, if I had to pay one or the other, and excluding off the field risks and behavior. If I were the Chiefs, I'd rather pay Tyreek Hill. If I'm the Atlanta Falcons, I'd pay Julio Jones over Devonta Freeman. The end result is you have to view them as individuals, individual talents, individual skills, individual injury histories, and individual use within an offense. What kind of offense do you use? What does it value? In Kansas City, they throw the ball, and they throw the ball like crazy, and they have a quarterback with an arm that can send it the entire length of the field. Give me Tyreek Hill. In Dallas, they have an offense built around an offensive line. Millions upon millions of dollars and high draft picks scattered, not just one deep, but two deep now across that offensive line. Give me the running back. In Atlanta, it was a pass-based offense. Give me Julio Jones. In the end, these players, just like you or me and our place of employment, need to be adjusted for, respected as an individual. It's the hardest thing in the world to do, right? To treat people as individuals. It's much easier to put them in boxes, positions, or others that you so choose. Put them into groups. It's just easier. But it doesn't make it smarter. It makes it stupid, in fact. Alex in Michigan. What's up, Alex? You're on the Stephen A. Smith Show with Will Cain.
What up, Will?
You tell me, Alex.
Shout out. Why not Michigan, man? Follow me on Instagram. Alex, BIUNDO1.
All right. What do you got for me, Alex?
That's what I got for you, man. Remember the name. I hope to be on SportsCenter.
What are you doing, man? I can't just plug you. You get 10 more seconds with an actual sports take as well, like the one that you supposedly called in for. What's up, Alex?
What up, dude?
Are you going to give me a sports take, or am I going to have to hang up on you now?
I'm sorry, but I'm out here for clout, man.
You're what?
I'm out here for clout, man. My bad.
Out here for the clout? Is that what he said? All right. It says on the screen, pay the wide receiver. The Stephen A. Smith show calls are a little different. I never had one like that, just for the clout. All right, Philip in Pennsylvania. What's up, Philip? You're on the Stephen A. Smith show with Will Cain.
Hey, Will Cain, I'm Philip. I was wondering, what quarterback do you think is most desperate for a breakout season?
I do believe it's the same one that Tim Hasselbeck just gave us. I believe it's Mitch Trubisky. Actually, I'm going to give you three. I think it's Mitch Trubisky, I think it's Dak Prescott, and I think it's Baker Mayfield. I think Baker Mayfield will jump up like many of the expectations are this season. I don't think he's there yet, but I think the hype and expectation for Baker Mayfield is such that he's going to need to do so. I think Mitch Trubisky can and will, for the expectations that follow the Chicago Bears, to make sure that team lives up to its postseason expectations. And I think that Dak Prescott has a lot of doubters that it's time to prove wrong. And I think with the new offensive coordinator, you're still here.
What do you think about Derek Carr and the Raiders?
I don't think so, man. I think that we know who Derek Carr is. I think by the fourth season, we know who guys are. I think John Gruden is actually building something. Thanks for the call, Philip. I think John Gruden is building something. It's not there yet. And I don't think Derek Carr is going to be his quarterback of the future. I think he sent up enough smoke signals, enough skepticism, enough doubt that we should all trust him. I think there'll be another quarterback that takes the John Gruden project in Oakland to the top. Oh, here's a good one. Sebastian. What's up, Sebastian? You're on the Stephen A. Smith show with Will Cain.
What's going on, Will? I need to know, are the Saints are they going to pay Alvin Kamara or Michael Thomas more?
Okay, more. Okay, if they got to try to pay them both. By the way, that's if you can, obviously that's where you want to go. So here's the deal. I think, oh man, that is a tough one, Sebastian. We think of the Saints as this high-flying, passing-oriented offense, but that's not who they are anymore. They're a run-based offense. Michael Thomas is great. I think Michael Thomas is one of the top receivers in the NFL, but I think the same about Alvin Kamara. I want to say Kamara, but you know what, Sebastian? I'm going to go with Michael Thomas.
I agree. It's tougher to find, top-tier receivers, I believe, than, top-tier running backs.
Well, not just that. I don't know yet if Kamara can carry the load over a full season. I don't know if he can stay healthy. So when I do pick a running back over a wide receiver, he's at least shown me that he's going to be able to play, that I'm going to get those 20 to 30 touches a game. That's what I know if you sign Zeke, you're going to get health-wise. I don't know if you're going to get that from Kamara. He's never carried the full load like that. He's never rushed for 1,000 yards. He always had Mark Ingram next to him. I think he's explosive. He is absolutely an exhilarating running back, but can he give me that 20 touches a game, 25 touches a game that I need if I'm paying a running back? And if I don't know the answer to that, I'm going to go with Thomas. Thanks for the call, Sebastian. The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Cars, homes, boats, motorcycles, RVs, and more at Progressive.com. You remember when Kawhi Leonard was a free agent. And the reports were that he did not want to meet with Rob Pelinka, but that he wanted to meet with Magic Johnson. Well, according to a new report by The Athletic, Magic Johnson is at least in part the reason that Kawhi Leonard did not end up a Laker. This from a source who was involved in the process to The Athletic, according to the report. I truly believe that when Magic started telling the media about the meeting he had with Kawhi and Dennis, that's Kawhi Leonard's uncle, that sealed the fate of the Lakers. I think that right there was when Dennis and Kawhi decided we can't trust the Lakers as an organization, and that was it. I think that was it for them. They also held a separate meeting with Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka. Magic Johnson, if you'll remember, after his meeting with Kawhi Leonard, much of the information about that meeting, its existence, and what went down came out to the media. That didn't come from the ever cryptic and quiet Kawhi Leonard and his uncle Dennis. That came by all reports from Magic Johnson. And that's breaking a central element of trust for Kawhi Leonard. Magic Johnson looked like he was going to be the savior in this free agency process, this recruiting process. Because once again, Rob Pelinka had failed. They don't want to meet with Rob Pelinka. But in this report from The Athletic, it actually suggests it's Magic Johnson, who's at least in part why Kawhi Leonard is a Clipper today and not a Laker. All right, your surprise NFL teams coming up this next year, next on the Stephen A. Smith Show with Will Cain, filling in for Stephen A.
Your radio, your computer.
The Big 12 has decided that the horns down sign will be penalized if done in an intimidating fashion. You guys have all seen this when the Texas Longhorns play, or actually when they don't play sometimes. You'll see people in the crowd, and increasingly you'll see players on the field take the hook 'em horn sign that everybody does who's affiliated with the University of Texas, pinky and forefinger up, making a hook 'em horns and pointing it down. It's a sign of disrespect. It's right there in the face of Longhorns fans and alumni, both of which I am. And apparently college football has had enough of it. First, Greg Burks, the Big 12's coordinator of officials, said that this, and I'm quoting, like any play, there is a degree. Who it's directed at, if they do it in their bench area, we're not going to look at it. It would be like any other celebration foul. So it has to be like any foul we have. Does it rise to the level we need to deal with that? It's a hot topic. I know people want us to be definitive on that, but it's like any touchdown celebration. Is it directed at an opponent or just a celebration with your teammates? So it's like pornography then. Or at least how the Supreme Court try to define obscenity and pornography. I can't tell you what it is, but I know it when I see it. So an official in the Big 12 can't tell you when horns down isn't a penalty, but he'll know it when he sees it. It's a degree thing. Did you do it in an intimidating fashion? You're trying to show up your opponent, or you're just having fun? Well, that's weak. It's weak sauce. And it's a gray area, and all it's going to invite is debate and controversy. Some ref decides either is or isn't. It's over the line or it isn't. It's intimidating or it's fun and celebratory. Get out of here with that, man. You can't tell the difference. And that's why you shouldn't be penalizing communication anyway. Look, I'm a Longhorn alumni and a Longhorn fan. Deal with it. Don't deal in victimhood. Don't deal in the false power of being offended.
Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line.
It's Will Cain filling in for Stephen A. today on the Stephen A. Smith Show. You can normally catch me 3 to 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN News and SiriusXM Channel 80. Caller asked me a little bit earlier, hey, do you think Carson Wentz's contract tells us anything about what Dak Prescott will get paid? Do you think Carson Wentz's contract, as compared to Russell Wilson's, is an example of white privilege? The caller suggested that is something Stephen A. had offered up in the past. I haven't heard Stephen A. say that, but I can tell you that I do not believe that's the reason that Carson Wentz got paid what he got paid in relationship to what Russell Wilson got paid. Carson Wentz is set to make $32 million a year on average on a $128 million contract because that is when he got to the pay window. The NFL pays its quarterbacks when it has to, when your contract is up. What kind of inflation has incurred since that time? And what kind of leverage you have, what their options are, how committed to you is the franchise offering you that contract. The Philadelphia Eagles had walked away from a Super Bowl winning quarterback in Nick Foles. They were tied to Carson Wentz. They took Carson Wentz at the top of the NFL draft. They are tied to Carson Wentz. And for at least 2/3 of one season, Carson Wentz performed at the highest levels of quarterback play in the NFL, giving the Philadelphia Eagles reason to believe he is the guy to tie their future to. Once all that was decided, it was just a matter of paying him what he's worth at the moment his contract comes up. For Carson Wentz, that was $32 million a year. For Russell Wilson, that was $35 million a year. And for that matter, if we're going to play the game of Russell Wilson is better than Carson Wentz, so why did they make similar number of dollars, we can keep playing that game. Because Aaron Rodgers, who by most people's account is a top 1, 2, or maybe 3 ranked quarterback in the NFL, makes less now than Russell Wilson. Is that an example of some kind of privilege? Or is that an example of the fact that Russell Wilson came to the pay window 1 year after Aaron Rodgers? And thus, he made more. I'm going to tell you something, and I'm not Nostradamus, but I'm about to predict the future for you. Dak Prescott is going to make a lot more than many quarterbacks that many of you think he is not as good as. He's going to make a lot more than quarterbacks you think are definitely better than him because of when he comes to the pay window. Salaries are not, in the NFL, a corollary for ranking where you are at your position in the league. And they're not, then, some example of privilege either. Because you know what happens after Dak Prescott gets paid? Then Patrick Mahomes gets paid. Then Baker Mayfield gets paid. And it'll keep going up and up and up. All right, let's hit up the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Let's go to Matt in Boston. What's up, Matt? You're on the Stephen A. Smith Show with Will Cain.
How you doing, Will? Big fan, brother.
Thank you, man.
I was just going to chop it up on Baker Mayfield. I was thinking, you talking about expectations. He was just, I think him and Odell are going to have some ego problems. I think Odell's somewhat of a baby, to be 100% honest. I think he's just kind of one of those guys in the locker room that just can't seem to get along. I know his situation in New York was awful, but I think it's totally hit or miss. I think if Baker's ego does succumb to Odell, I think he still gets thrown a ball a ton, and they end up decent, but not what they should be. I just think he's going to go into Cleveland thinking a little bit too much of himself, and he's going to try and push that rookie coach and the young QB around. What do you think?
I think, Matt, that it's a definite risk. I think you're right. Thank you for the call. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think that managing those egos, managing those personalities is going to be a major risk for the Browns living up to their hype and expectations over this next year. The dude in North Carolina. What's up, dude?
Hey, Will. How you doing?
I'm good. What's up, man?
I just wanted to tell you, you guys are overlooking the Raiders. They're going to surprise next year. And I tell you, in 3 years, I say 4 years, they're going to win the Super Bowl. They drafted Hunter Renfrow. Who's going to cover him? Oh, and then you got Antonio Brown.
Hey,
then your boy, Patrick Mahomes.
Hey, dude, where'd Hunter Renfrow go to school?
I know you're going to try to point this as a Clemson thing. I knew you were going to do that,
You
Will,
did?
but I'm dropping knowledge on you.
You saw me coming from a mile away?
Oh, yeah, I saw you. But I'm never going to leave, Will. I'm here.
You're here for me?
Well, I'm here for your show. I'm going to bring your show to a whole new level.
You are?
But can I tell you something real quick? I know you got to take other calls.
You got less than 10 seconds, dude.
Patrick Mahomes will be the man until Trevor Lawrence comes to the Raiders.
How'd I know that was coming, dude? How'd I know that was coming?